Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Opera 101. Opera 101 is Cleveland Opera Theater's Monday through Friday series where we talk about all things opera and take you into this strange and wonderful world in which we tend to live. Some very exciting news to share today. At 3 p.m., we will be launching the first of our Explore Opera series. Explore Opera is an educational packet of materials for all ages. There are versions from pre-K up to adult continuing education and all ages in between. And this one is relating to Mozart's Le Nozze di Figaro, or The Marriage of Figaro. That will be available today at 3 p.m. Just go to clevelandoperatheater.org/explore. And you can find the materials there. In light of that, I thought we would talk about a couple musical devices used by Mozart in the opera Le Nozze di Figaro. A word often associated with this opera is revolutionary. It's a word that we tend to use a lot in music about a lot of composers, and Mozart is definitely one of them. I feel like it applies very well to this opera. One part that we can apply this very much is the Act 2 finale. Now, the Act 2 finale of Marriage of Figaro is about 20 minutes long. It is not short, and it is not broken up. It is continuous 20 minutes of music. In Mozart's time, we're still in what we call number operas, where you have a musical number and then recitativo, another musical number. So 20 minutes was very long for one number in that day. And this became a big trend. Italian composers picked this up and ran with it. And the Act 2 finale is kind of a precursor to what became known as la solita forma, or the standard form for composing opera scenes. If you look at it, it almost adheres exactly to La Solita Forma, which is usually credited to Rossini as being the person who started it. Rossini was obviously super, super influenced by Mozart, and especially this opera. The Barber of Seville was the precursor to this opera. Beaumarchais, the playwright, wrote the Figaro trilogy. The first installment is The Barber of Seville. The second is The Marriage of Figaro. The third is The Guilty Mother. Mozart chose the second installment because there already was a very successful Barber of Seville written by the Italian composer Giovanni Paisiello. Once Rossini wrote his Barber of Seville, it completely eclipsed Paisiello's. It's a much better piece, and we hardly ever hear Paisiello's today because Rossini's is really just so much better. In addition to the Act 2 finale, there is one other thing that I think we should take a look at. The play by Beaumarchais was very, very controversial. It is largely a class struggle. That is what it's about, and it is very much advocating for the lower class struggling against the upper class. This was very controversial in 18th century Europe. The French Revolution stirrings were beginning. There was all this kind of nascent class struggle as kind of a zeitgeist in the air. So censors in especially the Austrian government, also the French government, did not like Beaumarchais. So when Mozart and his librettists for this, Lorenzo da Ponte, decided that they wanted to adapt Marriage of Figaro, the court did not like that. So they realized that they needed to tone down the political underpinnings in this opera and make them less overt and turn it more into a comedy of manners. But Mozart and da Ponte were both masters of subtext, and all of the class struggle is in the opera. It's just kind of a layer down, and it's not super on the nose. the biggest example of this is Figaro's final aria in Act 4, Aprite un poco gli occhi, or Open Up Your Eyes a Little Bit. In Beaumarchais' play, The Marriage of Figaro, this is a monologue that Figaro delivers as a complete tirade against the upper class. He says, and I'm reading directly from a translation of Beaumarchais, nobility, wealth, rank, high position, such things make a man proud. But what did you ever do to earn them? Choose your parents carefully, that's all. Take that away, and what have you got? An average man. Whereas I, by God, was a face in the crowd. I've had to show more skill and brain power just to stay alive than it's taken to rule all the provinces of Spain for the last 100 years. Very, very much tearing apart the upper class. So what Figaro and Da Ponte did with this was they turned it into a tirade against women, because of course misogyny was a far more acceptable thing than criticizing the nobility. But the reason that they chose that is because in this part, Susanna and Figaro have been playing a trick on the Count this entire time. And Susanna realizes that Figaro is also becoming jealous, becoming suspicious of her. So she decides, I'm going to play a trick on Figaro too and make him think that I actually do want to run away with the Count. Figaro falls for this and is livid beside himself. So he releases this aria, which is a grand tirade against all women in general. Mozart musically, however, uses subtext to convey that this is actually a tirade on the upper class. How does he do this? One, most of the time in Mozart, the lower classes arias are in triple meter. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's more of a kind of a peasant rhythm, a folk rhythm. This aria is in double meter. 1, 2, 1, 2. Double meter is usually reserved for the upper classes. It's much more square. It's much more, pompous and formal. Also, another device usually reserved for the upper classes is a recitativo accompagnato, or an accompanied recit. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Figaro gets an accompanied recit for this aria. Why do these happen? It is because in this point, Figaro, through his blind foolishness, has become as big a buffoon as the upper classes are. And Mozart, although he could not, and Da Ponte, although they could not write this monologue verbatim, they use this musical device of basically presenting this in the way a character of the nobility would get an aria, to show Figaro's temporary transformation into one of the dumb nobles, because he is falling for this clever trick of Susanna's. There are a million examples throughout this opera of similar devices, and it is just incredible to see how well Mozart and Da Ponte use this subtext, use the double entendre in the words, use these musical devices to kind of subtly convey what they couldn't say overtly in the text. If anyone's interested in looking at more of these or exploring any of these concepts in depth, as always, write us, let us know. We are listening. And don't forget to check out our Explore Opera packet today, launching at 3 p.m. Thank you all so much for joining. As always fun to be here with you, and tune in tomorrow. Take care and stay safe.